Ageism. What do you see? What do you see, nurses? What do you see? What are you thinking when you're looking at me? A crabby old woman, not very wise, uncertain of habit, with faraway eyes, who dribbles her food and makes no reply when you say in a loud voice, "I do wish you'd try." Who seems not to notice the things that you do and forever is losing a stocking or shoe. Who, resisting or not, lets you do as you will with bathing and feeding the long day to fill. Is that what you're thinking? Is that what you see? Then open your eyes, nurse. You're not looking at me. I'll tell you who I am as I sit here so still, as I do at your bidding, as I eat at your will. I'm a small child of 10 with a father and mother, brothers and sisters who love one another. A young girl of 16 with wings on her feet, dreaming that soon now a lover she'll meet. A bride soon at 20, my heart gives a leap, remembering the vows that I promised to keep. At 25 now, I have young of my own who need me to guide and a secure, happy home. A woman of 30, my young now grown fast, bound to each other with ties that should last. At 40, my young sons have grown and are gone, but my man's beside me to see I don't mourn. At 50, once more, babies play round my knee. Again we know children, my loved ones and me. Dark days are upon me, my husband is dead. I look at the future, I shudder with dread, for my young are still all rearing, young of their own. And I think of the years and the love that I've known. And I'm now an old woman, and nature is cruel. 'Tis just to make old age look like a fool. The body, it crumbles, grace and vigor depart. There is now a stone where I once had a heart. But inside this old carcass a young girl still dwells, and now and again my battered heart swells. I remember the joys, I remember the pain, and I'm loving and living life over again. I think of the years all too few, gone too fast, and accept the stark fact that nothing can last. So open your eyes, people. Open and see, not a crabby old woman. Look closer. See me. Geriatrics deals with the physiology of aging and with the diagnosis and treatment of diseases that affect older adults or the abnormals and treatments. Gerontology is the study of all aspects of the aging process, including the clinical, psychological, economic, and sociologic problems of older adults. It involves nursing care, health care, housing, education, business, and politics. Gerontics is the nursing care and services provided to older adults. It involves a holistic view of aging with goals to improve health, provide comfort and care for the older adult. Aging is determined by society and culture and is a continual process of biologic, cognitive, and psychosocial change that begins at conception. Most people don't mind growing older, particularly if they're relatively healthy. Our concepts of old change throughout our lifespan. When you're younger than the age of 21, anyone older than 40 seems old. But when you become 40, anyone older than 65 now may seem old to you. And when you become 65, you may still not think of yourself as old, but instead old as someone older than 90. Today we live a lot longer. The young old is considered 60 to 74 years. Middle old is 75 to 84 years. The old is 85 and older, and the elite old is 100 years or more. Chronological age has little relation to the reality of the aging process for the older adult. We need to look not only at a person's chronological age, but also their functional and physiological age. Chronological aging is not the most meaningful measure of age, as some chronologically young adults might be physiologically and functionally older, and vice versa. Each person will age in his or her own way. Not all 65-year-olds are the same. Physically, individuals are affected by lifestyle and disease which affect their aging, comorbidities, which are multiple chronic illnesses, their lifestyle, such as tobacco, drug, or alcohol use, their sexual practices, and exposure to sun or chemicals. Gerontophobia is the fear of aging and the refusal to accept older adults into the mainstream of society, which can cause irrational fears resulting in behaviors that make no sense for a person's chronological age. Ageism and age discrimination are extreme forms of gerontophobia. Ageism is the dislike of aging and older people based on the belief that aging makes people unattractive, unintelligent, and unproductive. An emotional prejudice or discrimination against people based solely on their age, and it allows people to view older adults as having less human value. These beliefs are usually based on myths and stereotypes. These attitudes in healthcare workers can lead to poor healthcare outcomes. And age discrimination reaches beyond emotions and leads to actions and results in different treatment of older people simply because of their age. Some older individuals respond to age discrimination with passive acceptance, whereas others will join together to speak up for their rights. Demographics is the statistical study of human populations, and it's concerned with a population size, distribution, and vital statistics. It's used by the government as a basis for granting aid to cities and states, by cities to project their budget needs. Life expectancy, or the number of years an average person is expected to live, is one area that's studied by demographers. Life expectancy is going to be affected by environmental hazards, wars, accidents, food and water availability, sanitation, and diseases. Advances in technology and healthcare have significantly increased life expectancy. For example, vaccines have played an important part in increasing this. The United States is 42nd out of 223 countries in life expectancy due to violence, accidents, obesity, high infant mortality, and the high cost of health care. According to the United States Department of State, the number of people over age 65 is projected to exceed the number of children under age 5 by 2020. In 2010, an estimated 40 million people aged 65 or older lived in the United States. But by 2060, this number is expected to increase to 92 million people over age 65. Consider currently baby boomers. These are the people that were born between 1946 and 1964, account for approximately 22.9% of all Americans today. Because of its size, this group has had and will continue to have significant influence on all areas of society. We are becoming an increasingly older society. The Administration on Aging projects that minority populations will represent 28% of the older population by 2030. Women currently outlive men by approximately 2.6 years. Women tend to live longer than men, and whites tend to live longer than blacks, although these disparities seem to be declining. White women do have the longest life expectancy, which is about 81 years. Geographic distribution of the older adult population is not equally distributed throughout the United States. Climate, taxes, and other issues regarding quality of life influence where the older adults choose to live. In descending order of older adult population, we have the states of California being the highest, Florida, Texas, New York, and then Pennsylvania. In 2016, 70% of men over the age 65 were married, compared to 45% of older women. The percentage of older adults who are separated or divorced has increased significantly to 14%. In 1970, only 28% of senior citizens had graduated from high school. By 2016, 85% were high school graduates or more, and 28% had bachelor's degrees or higher. Today's older adult population is more technologically sophisticated. Some of the poorest people in the country are going to be the older adult, but so are some of the richest. In 2015, 8.8% of the elderly population was statistically determined to be at or below the poverty level, with older women being more likely to be impoverished than men. The highest poverty rates are among older Hispanic women that live alone. As of 2015, the median income of males over age 65 was $31,372, while that for females was only $18,250. The median income of households headed by a person 65 years of age or older was approximately $57,360. The major sources of aggregate income for older adults include Social Security, benefit earnings, asset income, pensions, and other earnings. Approximately 78% of households headed by a person older than 65 years of age own their own home. People older than 65 years of age generally have more discretionary income available than do younger people. The ability and desire to keep a job is an individual decision depending on the cognitive ability of the older adult. Some people are eager to leave a regular job and might retire in their 50s or early 60s, while other people enjoy working and then want to continue beyond a traditional retirement age. Some types of work maintain a mandatory retirement age, particularly if that work involves public safety. But in other situations, retirement is going to be a matter of preference. Because of lifespan extension, 4 to 5 generations might be alive at one time in a family. Middle-aged family members often become the caregivers, and they may be referred to as the sandwich generation. They're trying to work, raise children, and care for the parents or even grandparents. Children often take older parents into their homes when the older parent can no longer maintain their own houses or apartments. And this can be an issue because many older adults live with chronic conditions and require some degree of care or assistance. However, we also see the flip side of that, where grandparents are now raising young children. So how do we know when a parent needs help? This is a growing issue in our society when we have older children that are older than 50, caring for even older parents that are older than 80. And often the caregivers have physical and cognitive issues of their own and are challenged by those of the parent. This can be difficult for adult children to admit that a parent needs help. They discuss possibilities before a crisis occurs. Make sure that siblings are included in discussions and locate that important information, that financial, medical, and insurance information. Safety will be a basic need, so it's important to observe for changes to determine if a parent might need help. We look for neglected personal hygiene, irregular dressing or soiled clothing, a significant weight loss, home neglect, inappropriate behavior, frequent falls, social isolation, altered relationship patterns, an inability to find the right words, unpaid bills or hoarding money, confusion about medications or making unusual purchases. Interventions for these problems are going to vary, as do the causes. Some might be easily corrected while others are long-term challenges. Often it's one event that will tip the scale between independence and dependency, and this can be something as simple as breaking a hip in a fall. The physical spiral downward can proceed from that point on. Elder abuse is prevalent in our society, but it's often missed. Each year, hundreds of thousands of adults over the age of 60 are abused, neglected, or financially exploited, and this is called elder abuse. Most victims of abuse are going to be women, but some are men. Likely targets are going to be the older adults that have no family or friends nearby, and people that have disabilities, memory problems, or dementia. Abuse can happen to any older adult, but often it affects those that depend on others for help with their activities of everyday life. People who are frail may appear to be easy victims. So, what is the cause of elder abuse? Frustration, stress, anger of adult children or other caregivers can all mount while caring for an elderly parent or relative. It can include physical abuse, which may include starvation or force feeding, inappropriate use of medication, or restraints. We see this evidenced by bruises or other injuries, delay in seeking treatment, or failure of a caregiver to allow visitors to see someone. Neglect will involve failure of caregivers to provide for the needs of the older adult, and it can be intentional or unintentional. It includes not cleaning up incontinence, exposure, or failure to provide medical care. Emotional abuse can include isolation, ignoring or depersonalization, forbidding visitors, or prohibiting phone use. It can be verbal or nonverbal and is evidenced by a lack of eye contact, trembling, agitation, evasiveness, or hypervigilance. Financial abuse will be the theft or misuse of an older adult's finances. And abandonment leaves the older adult physically, emotionally, and financially defenseless. Linda is a nurse that's trying to teach her mother, an older adult, ways to improve her life. She tries to encourage her mother to do all of the following, except that will be decrease physical activity. We want to see an increase, not a decrease, because that increase can improve the older adult's life. The most significant issue that aging parents and their children have to face is probably a loss of independence.